I'm Vin.
I'm sorry.
If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the filthy capitalist option. As Sori says, $125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. $125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and you get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at vinsori@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Yep. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in a Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go on the village, facebook.com/Vin and Sori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy merch.
And the child shall lead them.
Here we are.
As Ben Webb says, this is like, it's horrible that you're using your children to blah, 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 blah. All right. Here we go. It is time. We are now listening to part 2.
Light bearer, Lapsus.
Light bearer, Lapsus. We just did pre-Lapsus, so this is Lapsus. So, here we are. Choose file, and look at that, babe. Boom.
Ready.
Sorry, guys.
was 18 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I gotta say, Mark, when I first started listening to it, you had kind of led the witness and you were like, this one's not as good. So I was like, and then when it started out, I was like, yeah, it's not as good. But then as it progressed, it like really went next level. I love the violin in it. Honest to goodness, babe, I'm not sure if I've told you this before, but I really, really want to take lessons to learn the violin.
Bro.
I've been wanting to do that for a long time, and I don't know if
I've
I'd
got
said it
a
out
song,
loud or not.
Joe. I've got a song in my head
Yeah.
that you were playing violin in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm
That's
not
crazy.
no bullshit. Like
That's
I'm
crazy.
dead ass serious. Like, and I was just like, you on stage with a violin would be.
Oh, my word.
It would be
Oh
over.
my gosh, I
It
definitely.
would be over.
I've been like holding off because I'm like, do I really? But I really, really think I want to.
Yeah. I mean, holy. Yeah. I'm with Josh on this one. Wait a minute. There's no way that was 18 minutes. Yeah, bro. 17 minutes and like 52 seconds or something like that, son. Like it was
ridiculous, beautiful.
I mean, these guys.
Beautiful.
It's just one of those things, man. They had to break up, man. Like the shit was just too good. Like these guys are just too good, too talented. I haven't heard.
Oh my word, I forgot they.
I haven't heard a
Oh,
single
my
song
word.
from this band that has not been like life-changingly good. And
Hey, maybe it's a sign.
it's.
Because I'm wearing the Fist of Five shirt. Like, remember they broke?
Oh,
and then they got back together.
And it was us. We were the
was
ones that
us.
constructed it.
You better get back together.
Yeah, get
like
back
Mary.
together and finish that third album, bitches. The Christians have decreed it.
Yes. Yeah, there's some really, really
man.
good stuff. Woo.
Golly, that would be so epic. So epic.
I'll tell you what. The ending of the song was crazy. This hollow place will serve us well. For
we no longer have your love. Yeah, they did that perfectly.
And it was crazy because what they did musically before they even did those lines, I felt myself journeying toward God in a friendly sort of sense.
100,000%.
That warm light was
100%
coming
of it.
toward me, and I was going toward it. And then it was just crazy to have that line after. Like it like made me feel sad for the devil.
Well, the reason, you know, I did a Bible study one time about the fall of Satan, and there are two major passages. I think it's Ezekiel 14 and Isaiah 28. I know there's a 14 and I know there's a 28. That's how you know, people are like, oh my God, you have an amazing memory. There's all these little like tricks and cheats. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? So, anyway. But yeah.
Interview them with an intervention. I'm going to try to contact them.
No, I'm serious.
Yes. Do it. Contact them. We want to interview them.
We would absolutely, yeah, for sure.
All right, babe,
For
what were
sure.
you saying? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, you were going to read something, but...
Well, so Ezekiel 20, it's Ezekiel 28 and Isaiah 14. I had it backwards. When it talks about, you know, you were the guardian cherub, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
You walked among the stones of fire. You know, I think Josh quoted it earlier in the thing, stones of fire or whatever. What a lot. So that passage and then Isaiah 14 is usually looked upon in the Old Testament to be what evangelicals usually use is this is God talking about the devil. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting is it's a lament to the king of Tyre, mm-hmm. right? So just like when Jesus says, "Get behind me, Satan," but he was speaking to Peter. Mm-hmm. Peter was because Peter said, "This shall never happen to you, Lord." You know, the crucifixion. Jesus said, "Hey, I'm gonna be." I think it's Matthew 16. Jesus like, "Hey, I'm gonna be crucified. They're gonna kill me." Blah blah blah. And then it says Peter took Jesus aside and rebuked him. Said, "Lord, this will never happen to you. This shall never happen to you." And then Jesus looks at Peter and says, "Get behind me, Satan." Mm-hmm. So he's talking to Peter, but what's happening is that Satan is using Peter to tempt Jesus to not do what he's supposed to do. And so Jesus sees the spiritual sort of source of that voice for Peter. So when God is talking to the king of Tyre, it's the same principle. He's speaking past the king of Tyre to the person that's empowering him, which is Satan, presumably. The point of all that is to say that everybody misses this, and I've never heard I've only heard one sermon teaching on this ever, but it is a lament. It's styled as a lament. It's not styled as a. There are a lot of different genres in prophecy, right? Some of it is mockery, like there's divine mockery. So like the virgin daughter of Zion laughs at you, etc., etc. Talking about Babylon. And then there's a regular fire and brimstone. We're gonna kill you, blah blah blah. And then there's a genre in the Old Testament called the lament genre. Yeah. And obviously there's an entire book, the Book of Lamentations.
Yeah.
Right. There's an entire book where the Jeremiah presumably says, my eyes flow streams of tears because of the dead in our streets, whatever. Mm-hmm. So when you have that interlude, it goes on for like 3 or 4 minutes, and it's sad and it's whatever. Mm-hmm. And then he says those last 2 lines when he talks about this hollow place will suit us well because we no longer have your love. Right? It's sad, and then that's how the record ends. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this is perfect because it is a lament. It's a sad thing. When God looks back at it, he doesn't have this triumphalistic, ha ha ha, devil, I beat you. You thought you could overcome me. It's a lament of a father who, and again, what people have to realize is the term demon is not really used a lot in the Old Testament. The term that's used is B'nai Elohim, which translates literally to sons of God. When Jesus gets on the earth, he consistently doesn't refer to God as the Most High, doesn't refer to him as, the Lord of Hosts or whatever. Jesus' favorite designation for God is Father. That's Jesus' favorite designation for God is Father.
Oh my gosh!
Father,
for a second,
Father,
I thought you were talking about the devil. I was like, "What? He calls him?" Okay.
So look, God's essential. And later on, John tells us God is love. God's essential nature is a lover. He's a lover, and whatever relationship we have, whether it's friend, brother, sister, lover. All of those are used to speak of God's relationship with his people. In Hosea, he's married to his people. At the end of Revelation, he's married to his people. Abraham in Hebrews 11 is called a friend of God. Jesus is our brother. After the resurrection, John chapter 20, he tells Mary, go tell my brothers. So we've got, and then there's some intertestamental stuff that has the Holy Spirit and the feminine. So every kind of relationship that you have is God. So when you have God and he has to cast out the devil, he's not triumphalistically going, ha ha, he's losing a son. I remember last summer, Dorian, he lost his mind and he went off, he went off the deep end, he went crazy. And so we had him live with his mom for a month and a half. And it was the most miserable I've ever been in my entire life. And
yeah, it was not.
And I remember the night that I took him home because something had happened with him and his mom. Surprise, surprise. But I remember when I took him home, and he'd had it hard over there because, emotionally speaking, because of certain things. And, he was bawling in the car because something had happened and he was really hurt. But I think about that moment in the car so much because he was so hurt, and I just remember just holding him, and we're crying. I mean, he was like snot, like he was like deeply. It's like all the shit that he had been trying very hard to
progress past. It just all came back to him in that.
I just remember just holding him, man, and it was like the worst and best moment, one of the worst and best moments of my life, I think. Just because I remember being that age and being in that type of pain and being by myself. But I wasn't by myself. Because there were a couple times when God showed up in the room, and that's why I'm still alive. But it's a hard thing, man, to be a dad and watch your kids. And you know, it was his own fault. I get it. We're very big on accountability and personal responsibility in this household. And, you know, I think the way that we raise our kids is it's very, very different. And you only see the wisdom behind it like when you get to the other side and you see like, holy shit, this kid's 15 years old and he's ops managing a pretty lucrative business here at 15. How does that happen? And all the other incredible things that our kids do. But there are some very, very high standards in the house. So, you know, he brought it on himself, but it was such a hard thing to do, man, as a parent. But it was something that all of us needed. Everybody involved needed that period of separation. Like, he needed to see how it was outside the house. And you know, we needed to put a line in the sand and say, hey man, this much and no further, bro. Like, you know, like we weren't talking shit. Like you know, he had to go. But it was hard, man.
Yeah.
It was a really, really hard. I think about it a lot to this day. So when I read when God is talking about the fall of Lucifer, and he styles it as a lament, I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. If God is truly a father, that's how it would be. It would be a lament. It would be grief. It would be coming from a place of deep pain. And when you see the way God talks to the devil, presumably in the Bible, it's never like, fuck you, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like, hey man, where you been?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think
Job 1, presuming that the person in Job 1 is the devil, which I'll go with it for purposes of this discussion, like he's just like, hey, how you doing? Where you been? And the devil's like, yeah, you know, just going to and fro around the earth. You know, it's like they're related, and it's like, and of course it says when the sons of God went to present themselves, you know, Hasatan was also with them. So at the end of the day, you never stop being somebody's son. Like, you can I disown you, metaphorically or whatever, but at the end of the day, that's still God's son.
Yeah, it's crazy too. I think a lot about Eve, and so she obviously they got kicked out of the garden, and then she has two sons. She has Cain and she has Abel, and Cain ends up killing Abel. Spoiler. And I think about that like all the time. I think about how painful it must have been for her to go from an environment that was so perfect and then to be just, you know, sent out of the garden. And then, I mean, obviously her and Adam wouldn't have been having conflicts before because there was no sin in the garden. Now they're having conflicts, and now she has two sons, which she probably felt like, oh my gosh, like, okay, God hasn't completely abandoned us. He's still causing life to come from my womb. So it was probably a pretty exciting thing for her. And then she has one of her sons kill the other, like one of her sons kills the other son. And the idea that one child from your womb could kill another child from your womb is just absolutely heart-wrenching to me.
Yeah.
Because they're both your kids, and then one son is dead, but you lost the other son that day too, because he's a completely different person. You know, he's somebody that was capable of killing your other kid.
And then your other kids are trying to find him to kill him. That's what he said. Whoever finds me will kill me.
Right. And then he ends up leaving and going far away from them, you know. And just like the pain of that situation, and then when you're talking about God and his relationship to Satan and, you know, the son aspect of it and stuff, it's interesting to think that God understood her pain more than I previously realized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I remember being a kid and being like, oh yeah, man, like, I'd love to be God. He's got a sweet gig. Now, forget it, man. I wouldn't do it. Being a father is such an amazing thing, but I spend so much time thinking about just the fear of losing him, you know? And I hate that, because I remember there was a specific moment, and like, I was in a situation and I was like, if this doesn't change in the next 2 seconds, I'm going to die. And I remember being completely okay. I was completely fine. As far as like fear, I was like, and it was literally, I'm seeing the situation right now. If this doesn't change in the next like 3 to 5 seconds, like I am going to be dead. And I remember when we were in that car accident, and I looked at you and I said, "This isn't good." And I said it just like that, like this isn't good. And you know, so anyway, I was in that situation, and it was just that same thing. I looked over and I said, you know, well, it obviously didn't happen. I'm here, but I wasn't afraid at all. There wasn't like, there was no fear whatsoever. I saw it coming. I saw, you know, whatever, and I was completely unafraid. I just remember, hey, you have to do, you know, X, Y, and Z, and if it works, then you'll be good. If not, you won't know. And that's what we were saying. And, you know, it worked. So here we are. But my point is, that was such an important moment in my life, because I'm like, I am truly not afraid to die. I am not afraid. And it was crazy because we were going the way back and people were talking about being afraid. And these are like, not people who were afraid, but they're like, man, whoo. And, you know, and like almost everybody was saying it. So I was like, oh yeah, man. And I was like, shit. I was like, yeah, bro. Oh my God, man. I was like, my heart was coming out of my chest, blah, blah, blah. Cause I didn't want to like, cause everybody's like, yo, how you doing? But I didn't want to be like, oh, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just felt so weird, but I'm like, I remember I just remember like going to sleep that night, like so happy. I was like, I am not afraid of shit. Cause people say that shit all the time. They're like, oh yeah, I'm not afraid, blah, 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 blah. I'm good. You know, but like, I was like, I'm genuinely not afraid. And I was like, holy shit, I could take over. This is great. And then like the first time I sat and thought about something happened in you know what it was? I've never said this before. I was taking a shower and I was scrolling through Facebook and I see this 11-year-old kid and he's over a toilet and he's completely bald and he's completely skinny. He's got leukemia. And I just thought of Dorian, and you know, you go in the shower and I was just like, oh my God. And then I felt like such a horrible person, because I'm like, I'm not thinking about this kid's problem. I'm immediately thinking about me and my son. I'm pretty certain I didn't even pray for that kid. But like, and then I just saw another one. The kid's got leukemia. Like, I can't even look at it. Like, I can't. And it's so weird to me. It's like, I could walk into this situation, not be afraid at all. But the prospect of losing any of my sons would just like, being God and like losing sons is like, and that the little the little bit of love that I could muster up for my kids, and I'm sure like
in comparison to God's love for him,
you would probably say, no, you really love your kids and whatever and all that. But like, you know, and I love that Dorian, like, every time he will not leave without saying goodbye. The other kids will. He still kisses me on the mouth, like he's we're outside. I say, hey, come here. He's in front of all his friends and shit. They're like big popular in the neighborhood right now. And he comes up, kisses me right in the mouth. Hey, father, how you doing? Blah blah blah. And he doesn't care. And I'm just like, they must have had, if you're talking about Lucifer, they must have had really good times together. Like, they must have been, you know, God, it was a lament. They must have been very, very, he must have loved him really, really deeply. And we never think about that. And we never think about the tragic side of the fall of Satan. And, you know, there were so many emotions that were going through my heart when I was hearing the song, because I'm like, this band, I know God as Father. I've experienced God's love to me as a father. And I know that I have, because I never had a father, and I didn't realize that I was experiencing God as Father until I had kids of my own. And then I was like, oh, that's what those moments were. That's cool. Okay. That's what
yeah, that's really cool.
you relate to the Trinity. Everybody relates to God in different ways, but like for me, man, like God is like the there's that one preacher guy, and he was saying like the kid had gotten into some trouble or whatever, and the preacher guy was like, well, he's a son of this house. He's talking about church, instead of saying he's a member of this church, they said he's a son of this house. And I just, there was just so many times that I screwed up or whatever, and fathers come to me and said, you're a son of this house. Like, you're never, ever, ever not going to have a place at my table. Ever. And you're out of your mind right now. Like, there's so many times the father said, you're out of your mind and you know you're wrong, but you're a son of this house. Period. I love you. That's it. And it's like, I was talking to the girls, and one of them was going through something. And I said to both of them, we were having our little talk or whatever. I said to both of them, I said, listen, wherever you are on the planet, whatever you do, whatever you get yourself into, I don't care what you've done. I don't care if you robbed a bank. I don't care if you got pregnant and had an abortion. I don't care if you're pregnant. I don't care if you have a disease. Whatever it is, anywhere you are on the fucking planet, you get in trouble, you call me. I'm going over there, no questions asked, nothing. I'm over there, and I got you, no judgments. Always call me. I don't care if you're 55 years old, right? And I just wanted them to know that because, I just, you can't assume anything as a parent. And both of them started bawling. They started crying. I didn't know what was happening. It was just a weird moment, man. But I was like, okay, like they're having a God moment right now. I was the voice box, but so I'm listening to this song and I'm looking at this band, like their perspective on God, that he's tyrannical and things like that, and I'm like, you don't know him, like, and that was the saddest part to me in the song. Like, this is their view of God. Now, again, they may not even believe in God. They probably they're just using these as archetypical figures to talk about, tyranny or whatever. But like, that's so many people's view of God is just this exacting and mean and not the person you call when you're in trouble. And then I especially since I started having kids, like, man, God as Father has just been like, I felt that posture in him, like, yo, bro, wherever you are, just call me. Like, no judgments, just call me. And like, man, to know that there's people in the world that don't have that experience, don't have that as their lived experience, believe God is, crazy and whatever and mean and somebody to be avoided.
It's a long and painful existence. It's
hard, man. It's hard to like think about that, because I know so many times it's been so I just feel very fortunate, I just do, and I just feel like something came to me. I shot that video about Chauvin during the verdict, and something came to me and I didn't say it, and it was from the Lord, but I was like too caught up in the situation to actually say it. But it was essentially like talking about Chauvin. It was like God essentially said something to the effect of, the only thing worse than Chauvin could do in taking George Floyd's life away from him would be to take himself away from the God who loves him. And I was like, I'm not saying that shit. I'm not saying that, but it's true. It's true. It's true. And that's the thing about God. Like, you cannot absorb that I will love you no matter what unconditionally. You can't absorb that for yourself and then deny it to somebody else. So the most I could get out was, I am not going to celebrate the the end of this man's life. So
You're interesting.
that's as much as I was gonna give people. Like, I can't tell, but really that the rawest version of it was God saying,
Wow.
the only thing worse
That's crazy.
than killing George Floyd was to deny me you. And then I thought about it. George Floyd, he was a Christian. He had his problems. He had his issues. He went to God. Mm-hmm. You know, mm-hmm. and he wouldn't trade places with any of us right now. So if you look at it from that perspective, shit, man, like that the degree to which God loves people is massively offensive. You know, and we have fun. We were having fun with some atheist people earlier, but I don't know. It sucks to me. If this stuff is real, if anything that we believe is 2% true, and if any of the experiences I've had with God are 2% true, if any of it is true, and there's one person on the planet that doesn't believe it and experience it, it's a fucking worst tragedy on the planet, man. It really, really is.
Yeah.
But they captured it so well. That's what I cannot get over. Sonically, they communicate so well about this particular topic. I don't know what it is, but have we not bled for your succor? Have we not swarmed to your side? Have we not groveled and washed your feet? Have we not bound to your creed? I will not blithely wilt in the light of your glory. I will not blindly walk in the glimpse of the void. Like, that is not God's heart at all.
Right.
It's not about groveling and, you know, rolling in the dirt and saying I'm a piece of shit. Like, that's not. And it's crazy. Have we not washed your feet?
I know.
There is never an instance in the Bible, Old or New Testament, when anybody washes God's feet, but there's one example where God washes our feet. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the thing that's crazy to me. It's like everything gets flipped, you know, because we've got this presupposition like God is not commanding people to grovel at his feet. That's not what's happening. Mm-hmm. So like it's and I'm not offended for God. I'm just like, man, you don't know what you're missing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not offended for God. It's more like, what are you talking about? Mm-hmm. That's not what happened. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but go ahead. I'm rambling here. I talk too much.
I mean, I'm processing, you know, what you're saying, because I think that there's something to be said of people that don't have that understanding of him and his love, and it's obviously a dark and a cold place to be.
Yeah.
But misunderstanding him to that degree, I don't know, it's weird. It's weird in the sense of, so like Satan can say that to someone to kind of give them that idea and make them think about that. But Satan knows that it's a lie. But he'll say it to someone and the person will repeat that back or repeat that out loud and not know that it's a lie. Mm-hmm. Like, just to be deceived to that, you know, like that. It's just it's sad. And it's hard because I think that, you know, at different points people can feel like that. You know, I know that after, you know, my miscarriage and having to go through that and then the divorce and all those different things, like it just felt like God was bad. Like, it was like, how can he, you know, and I know that my situation is so minor compared to some of the pains that other people have been through. And, you know, when, I don't know, you know, like when you have something that's like helpful, like maybe it's like a canker sore in your mouth and you put the salt on it and it actually helps heal it faster, but it's super painful at the time. Yeah. And so sometimes I think that, you know, God feels like that. It's like his salve or his ointment that's healing is not always painless. Like, sometimes there's a lot of pain in the healing, and so you can misunderstand the pain, just like you've brought up before about the kids with going to get vaccines. You know, like, if you as the parent, you know, you understand what you're doing and that you're doing that for their best, but they don't understand why you're allowing someone to jab them with the needles. And I think that, you know, when you're in that place where you don't understand why God is doing what he's doing, and it can just feel like he's cold and heartless and the world is only full of pain, it's just a tough place. Mm-hmm. You know, obviously I agree with you that he's a father, and I don't think he wants us to maintain that that view of the world or him, because it ultimately makes our world darker, because he's not going to change. Like, God isn't going to change because you think that he's bad. He's not going to become bad. He is who he is, and our thoughts of him will not change him. But I don't know. It's an interesting. What's that verse that says, like, something about maybe calling God a liar, but he cannot deny himself, or what's that verse?
Yeah.
What is it?
If we are unfaithful, he is faithful, for he cannot deny himself.
Right. He is faithful still, for he cannot deny himself. Right.
Yeah.
And so that, I like that idea that, whether we're unfaithful or we don't understand him, or he seems so dark that, it feels safer in the arms of Satan than with him. Like, that's okay. He's not going to leave us there. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
he has truths that will break through the darkness and kind of come in and, like, I don't know. I like that. And I believe that. And I believe that he, he's speaking to a lot of us. And I think that's good. And I'm glad you guys are here.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously the last verse is talking about hell. And Anubis, stick around till after the review, because I'll answer your question real quick. But the last two lines, the last little stanza, is this the prize you spake, my lord, to punish infinite? How can our God commit such puerile acts? This hollow place will serve us well. So it's like, this is coming from the perspective. So the devil loses, and then he gets punished for eternity. It's like, come on, man. It's over. Of course, that doesn't take into account the fact that, I've said this a million times. If you took somebody out of hell who's been in hell for 10,000 years and said, okay, you can go to heaven now, where Yahweh, the being that you hate with all of your being, is being worshipped with all of our being, 24/7, come join the party, they would still say, nah, I'd rather the lake of fire, or whatever happens in the bad place. I've talked before about hell. I don't believe the fire in the Bible is literal when it talks about hell, but that doesn't mean that hell is a pleasant place to be.
Right.
I've said it's a combination of The Walking Dead and The Purge in ever increasing measures of heinity. But that's because the people there hate God, and they're progressively sinking into more and more of their hatred, so that the longer that they're in hell, the more they hate God and the less they'd want to be in heaven. Right. So we just have to understand that the people in hell are not saying, oh shit, I made a mistake. And the other thing, this came from James White, the people in hell are still sinning. Like they're not, it's not like hell has like a reparative influence. Really what happens in hell is sort of Romans 1 on crack stretched out through eternity. So in Romans 1 it says, if you refuse the knowledge of God with your mind, God will give you over to a reprobate mind to do things which are unseemly, is what one of the translations says. And so I think hell is simply I think God cordons off a segment of the universe, says, all right, you guys didn't want to play ball. I gave you 70 spins around the rock. You didn't want it. Cool. Here you guys go, have at it. So build culture, build whatever you want. Go do it without me. It's all good. And because they're no longer imaging God, and because they no longer have the influence of the Holy Spirit, the Bible, and Christians, and just general common grace, the society and culture that those people, those beings would create after 10,000 years is what you and I would both describe as hell. And there is a sense in which people can be suffering and choose suffering over health to the point where health would be suffering and suffering is health. I'm specifically talking about the folks on drugs, right? Like that's a good analogy to hell, is that You're looking at people, they know they're in the gutter. They know they have the capability of living a much better, higher quality of life. And due to trillions of other factors and exigencies, they purposely decide to continue to ingest chemicals and destroy themselves, live in the gutter, and then they know that the chemical is making them do things that they otherwise would not do, but they continue in it anyway because they're addicted. And I just think that's a very good understanding of hell. That if you went to hell and talked to the devil and said, look, man, you're miserable as hell. How about we go to Dad, say you're sorry and see how it works out. He wouldn't do it. It's the same thing with Cain. Like, God shows up to Cain and says, hey, man, what's going on? Why is your face sad? Which is what you do as a dad. You know immediately. And you look at all the bad guys, the really bad guys, and God is just always good to them. The pagan king that was with Sarah, and the guy goes, I didn't do anything wrong. I had nothing to do with it. And Jesus goes, yeah, I know you didn't do anything wrong, but let her go, because I'll kill you if you don't touch my daughter. Like, it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. This is a horrible review as far as, like, I was all over the place, but the song just sparked so much in me, man. This band is immensely gifted, and I don't know. I feel like you guys have one more album to do to close the thing out, bro.
I agree.
Yeah. And I agree with Joshua here. What do you give the song?
Jeez. It's definitely a 10.5, but it might even be 11.
Yeah, it's weird, man. Like, it's funny too, because you're right. He prepped us. He was like, "Oh, it's not as clean as the other one." But man, that
I think I'm gonna go with an 11.
That interlude, man. That interlude was crazy.
Just beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
And that's how it closed out the record too.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, 11 for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give it an 11. Really, really good song. Definitely gifted band. I agree. It's 11. And we've been at this for like the last 3.5, 4 hours. Thank you guys for hanging out. We're very close.
Answer somebody's question.
We're getting very close to getting our internet issues fixed, so that's good. And with that, I bid you adieu, dear listener. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone. Okay, Mr. Anubis, you asked a question about God building a rock so heavy he couldn't lift, and the answer to that is obviously no. And the reason for that is very simple. You have to define, as a Christian, I define omnipotence the way the Bible does, not the way that Aristotle or anybody else does. So the scripture says that no one can resist him or say to him, what have you done? Namely, when God decides to act, there is no power in the universe that can stop him when he decides to do something. Nobody can thwart his will. So omnipotence from a biblical perspective simply means that when God decides to act, no one can stop him. Now, how does that relate to the lifting the rock paradox? It's very simple. It's very, very simple. God cannot, from a biblical perspective, do anything outside of his nature. So, for example, the scripture says God cannot lie. Doesn't mean that the Bible commentators don't think God is all-powerful. What it means is that his nature is constrained against lying, so he would never marshal his will to lie. Therefore, you can't say that he's not omnipotent or all-powerful. It simply means that when he decides to act, no one can stop him. That's what it means. So, there we are. That's been the consistent church. That's been the consistent witness of biblical Christians for years and years and years and years and years since the beginning. So, there you are. All right, you guys. Yes, the hidden names in Genesis chapter. It's the what do you call it? The genealogy in chapter 5. Starts with Adam, which means man. Adon means man, and it's man is appointed mortal sorrow, but the blessed God shall come down, bringing the despairing comfort. Because it ends with Noah, and Noah means comfort. I think it's Genesis 5 where Noah's dad said he will provide us rest from the curse of the land or something like that. So anyway, Marcello, that's it's such an interesting, such a very interesting concept. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the translations for the names, that's what the names mean. So yeah, it's really, really, really fascinating stuff. Okay, guys, I got to get out of here. We got to get out of here. We've got an episode to watch, and or not.
Stay awake.
Yeah, if you can stay awake, or you can go to bed.
Do you have to shower?
There you are, dear listener.
Sori out.
Vin out. Say it again.
Sori out.
Down.